Hi everybody, it's Samantha here from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. It's Tweak of the Week time again, and what you are looking at here are coaster molds. Yes, coasters, you know, those little things you put under your drink so that you don't leave a ring on your coffee table. Well, these are beautifully designed coaster molds that are meant to be used with resin and other mediums to make coasters. I really love the designs, I really love the shapes, and so I wanted to use them with my soap making. Now, by themselves, they're probably not great as a soap mold because they're a bit too big and they're a bit too flat. You could probably make a decent embed out of them, but that's not good enough for me. I had to do something different, so this is what I came up with. I decided to go with the sunflower mold because I thought that was really cool, and ta-da! I made this beautiful slab of soap with this amazing sunflower in the center. Now, it's actually 4 smaller square soaps, each with a beautiful sunflower embellishment in the corner. I just really love these. I love the colors. They're amazing. The sky blue just sets off the sunflower so beautifully. Also, the gap around the sunflower that was caused by the edge of the coaster mold just really frames the sunflower, makes it pop. I scented them with Mei Chang or Litsea Cubeba essential oil. They just smell divine. And today I'm going to show you how to make them. This tutorial is part of my Tweak of the Week series, where I share with you everyday items and tools from other crafts and hobbies that with a slight tweak can be used for melt and pour soap making. You can find all of the Tweak of the Week projects in a special playlist on this channel. Okay, so before we start, I just want to tell you a few things you need to know about sourcing coaster molds for this technique. So the technique works by placing the coaster mold inside a larger slab mold, just like this. So when you're looking online for coaster molds, just don't get caught out by there's trivet molds and tray molds and similar designs that would probably be too big. So just make sure you get the measurements of a mold before you purchase it. Also, you need to make sure that the mold you've chosen looks good when cut into 4 pieces. Symmetrical designs and round designs all work really well. Asymmetrical shapes like hearts don't particularly work very well because when they're cut into 4 pieces, it's not very clear that they were actually a heart. Okay, also you need to make sure that the back of your mold is flat so it can sit flush against the slab mold. For example, something like this is not really suitable because soap will be able to leak in underneath this gap here, and there'll be a gap between this mold and the slab mold, and it's just not going to work. This will still be great it'll make a really nice embed, so you can do that, but not so great for this technique. And finally, you need to make sure that the walls of your mold are vertical and don't have a lip. So for example, this one here, it's a really beautiful mold. I really love it. But if you look at the side wall, it's got this lip that's jutting out. And obviously, if I put this mold inside this slab mold and then pour my melt and pour soap on top, once it's set, this little lip here will be set into the soap, and I will not be able to get it out without ruining the soap. So again, this one's great for an embed, this mold, but not really suitable for this technique. But keeping all that in mind, you've still got some great opportunities to come up with some really beautiful designs. And so now I'll get started showing you mine. So the first thing I'm going to do is give my mold a really good inspection, because one of the great things about melt and pour soap is it picks up amazingly fine detail. But that's also one of the bad things about it, because it will also show every single little flaw. So little things like these little wispy lips around the bottom of my mold here, I need to just trim them off and neaten up all these edges, because that will show up in my soap. It'll be on the front of my soap, and I don't really want those bits to be seen. Another thing I'm going to do before I get my soap base out is mix up some sunflower appropriate colors. I want a really beautiful sunflower yellow, which I find is easy to make. Get yourself some yellow and a little bit of orange, which will make a perfect sunflower petal color, because it's a really deep sort of dark yellow. These colors that I'm using today are pigment dispersions, but you could also mix up some micas if mica is what you prefer to color your melt and pour soaps. To make a perfect sunflower brown, you'll need orange and a very dark blue. I'm just going to add 1 drop of this blue. So this is predominantly orange with a tiny drop of blue. And as you can see, you get this really, really rich dark brown, which is the perfect color for the center of a sunflower. Okay, so now I'm going to melt some melt and pour soap base to fill up my sunflower mold. I'm going to start with the center of the flower, so the brown section. I have some transparent melt and pour soap base here. I'm going for about 25 grams or so, should be plenty. And I'm going to quickly melt that in the microwave. It only needs about 20 seconds. It's a very small amount of soap, and I recommend that you melt it in a smaller vessel as well. So like I said, I'm going to tint this brown using the brown soap coloring that I've mixed up. But this is a transparent soap base, and I do want my sunflower not to be transparent. I want it to be opaque. So what I'm going to do is I have some titanium dioxide here, also dispersed in a liquid. And I'm just going to add 1 tiny little drop, a small amount as I can get away with, into this brown here, and that will make it opaque. Now, as I stir, of course, it's also lightened the brown. That can't be helped. I'll be able to add a little bit more brown coloring to that to darken it up a bit. But it really looks better when the soap is opaque, hence the titanium dioxide. Yet I've still managed to get quite a dark brown just by limiting the amount of titanium dioxide I've put in. Maybe I should have used just a toothpick's worth, but I'm happy with this. I'm just going to add the rest of this brown, and I think this would be fine. Let's have a look. Yeah, obviously not as dark as it was, but that was when it was transparent, whereas now it is opaque and it's still, a dark brown, which is the best we're going to be able to do. It's certainly not pastel, which is what we don't want. We don't want a pastel brown because we know that sunflowers don't have pastel brown centers. All right, I have some isopropyl alcohol on hand, and I'm really going to drench the center part of this flower mold. I've also got a single cavity mold on hand. I chose a sunflower because I thought it was fitting. This is just for the excess soap that I'm going to have left over. You'll see when I do it. All right, so I'm giving it a really good spray with the isopropyl alcohol and then pouring very gently just into the center here. You'll see, so the reason for the good spray with the alcohol was to make sure that there's no bubbles here. So the soap is sort of displacing the alcohol. You can see there it pushed it out into the petals. But while it's doing that, it means that the soap is not, there's no air bubbles getting trapped on the surface of that really fine mold, especially with all those dots that it's got in the center there. There's a chance for air bubbles to get trapped, so that's why I gave it a really good spray with the alcohol. I've just poured on a very fine layer there. I've waited maybe 2 minutes for that to set up a little bit. So this is sort of touch dry. This is still a little bit, it's got a skin on it, but it's liquid underneath. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a second layer on top, just because I want this center of the sunflower to be a little bit thicker than what it was. So I'm just going to pour a little bit more. I'm not spraying alcohol this time because the alcohol would make the soap spread out too much, and that's not what I want. I actually want it to sort of sit all in the center, nice and thick here. So I'm just going to make sure I've got the whole center of the flower covered. But I'm not going to spray any alcohol, and I just want to thicken up that layer of soap that I had there. I do have a little bubble right here. I'm just going to probably pop that with my fingernail because I don't want to spray the alcohol. And then I'm going to wait until this is set up, which won't take long. It's a very small amount of soap. It'll set up quite quickly. Once it has set up, I'm going to take it out, well, take the excess soap out of this little sunflower mold here and just cube it because it's going back into the microwave. I'm going to remelt this down again. I'm going to do something a little bit strange here, but you got to trust me, it'll all be revealed in the end. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out a round cookie cutter that is a similar size, or as close to size as I can get, to the center of my flower here. And I'm going to push it into this thin layer of soap that I've already got set here. And then I'm going to remelt the excess that I had left over, and I'm going to pour that. I'll just give this a spray with the alcohol. I'm going to pour that into the inside of this cookie cutter here, and I'm going to let that set also. Again, it shouldn't take too long. Just spray to get rid of those bubbles. There we go. Okay, once that is set, I will remove my round cookie cutter. I'll give you a tip here. If you get a smaller cookie cutter, put it in upside down and then use it as leverage. Push down with your thumbs on the inside one while you pull out with your fingers on the outside one. That cookie cutter will come away quite easy. All right, now I'm just going to use a bamboo skewer to remove the melt and pour soap from the areas, the petal areas of the mold. Obviously, I just want the brown to be the center of the sunflower. This will also reveal to me how close I got to the center with my cookie cutter. I wanted the center of the flower to be a little bit thicker than just one teeny tiny little layer. I just think it would look better. So, I mean, this might seem like a little bit of work to go to. You don't have to do that. You can just, do one thin layer, but this is sort of what I wanted to try out. Okay, so now it's time for the yellow petals. As you can see, that brown didn't fully match up, but it's close enough. And yeah, I don't think it'll matter in the end. So I'm going to weigh out some more transparent soap. 65 grams is what I've got here. Again, melted that. I'm going to add my titanium dioxide first, followed by the yellow coloring to tint this beautiful yellow, but also it needs to be opaque and not transparent. But you can see how beautiful and bright this yellow is. Even though I have added titanium dioxide to my soap, it's certainly not a pastel color. It is a beautiful and bright yellow, which is exactly what I want. Again, giving this a really good spray down with my isopropyl alcohol and pouring the yellow all the way around. I want to fill this coaster mold all the way to the absolute brim, but I do not want any of the soap to go out over the edges of this mold. So I'm being very careful here. Oh, looks like I've got exactly enough, which is wonderful. So there we go. I'll give it a spray to get rid of the bubbles. And now it is set and it looks amazing. It looks like a sunflower from this side, even though we're looking from the back. Okay, so you can see that the center juts out a little bit there. I'm just going to get a knife and cut that off, shave this off so that the whole coaster mold is filled to the same height. Yeah, so just grab yourself a sharp knife and just cut along the edge. I'm cutting towards myself. That's not safe. Don't cut towards yourself. You got to cut away from yourself. There we go. I'll turn it around so I can cut away from myself. There we go. Just a couple of little bits here that I'll clean up. I'm cutting towards myself again. Don't do that, people. Don't do this. Okay, here we go. Just a little bit more. And there we go. Lovely. Nice and flush and flat. There is my beautiful sunflower. Fantastic. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in the larger slab mold that I'm going to use. This is a 6" by 6" square mold. And the sunflower will fit inside it just like this. But what I'm going to need to do is just tape my sunflower mold down with some double-sided tape. So just the thinnest double-sided tape you can find, and just make sure every part of the back of the mold is covered. I've also drawn myself up a template, which you can see here just on an A4 piece of paper. I've just drawn a line through the center vertically and horizontally, and then marked out with these little lines the edges of each of my molds, so the edge of my square mold and the edge of my sunflower mold. And because the bottom of my mold is see-through, I can see through to my template. I'm going to line this up. So this is going to help me center the sunflower mold in the center of my square slab mold. So I'm just going to line up the edges here because, yeah, it's important to me that it ends up in the center, because I'm going to have to cut this large square into 4 smaller square soaps, and it won't look as good if it's a bit wonky. So I'm going to make sure that this is all nicely lined up. When you're happy with it, just push it down so that the double-sided tape underneath can get good and stuck to the slab mold. I do not want any soap, well, as little soap as possible, sort of creeping in around the edges of this coaster mold. So I'm really going to make sure that it's pushed down. All right, there we go, we're ready. So now it's time to melt and pour what's going to be basically a majority of the soap bars, the blue section. So again, I'm using the same transparent base. I'm weighing out 550 grams this time, a significant amount. And I'm going to melt that in the microwave, being careful not to overheat it. Once I have done that, I'm going to add my essential oils, my Mei Chang or Litsea essential oil, at a percentage of 1.25% is what I like to use. Give that a good stir in, and now I'm going to start with the coloring. I'm going for a beautiful sky blue color, so I'm using the same indigo blue that I used to mix the brown in the center of the sunflower. It's a very dark blue and I want to lighten it up considerably, so I'm going to be using my titanium dioxide, which again has the dual role of lightening my soap and also making my soap opaque. So I'm just going back and forth here until I'm happy with the color. In terms of the scent, I didn't bother scenting the sunflower. I thought I'd leave the scent for the majority of the soap, and you really won't notice once it's all together. There'll be plenty of scent in the blue section to cover the sunflower. Okay, I'm happy with that color now, and I'm going to just pour very carefully around my coaster mold. Give it a bit of a spray with alcohol before I do. I don't want to pour directly onto the coaster mold because I don't want to melt my sunflower. I'm going to give it a light spray and a tap just to get any of the air bubbles out from underneath, and pour the remaining, and of course spill it everywhere because hey, why not? That happens to the best of us. Okay, I've sprayed that down with alcohol, and there's just a little imperfection on the surface here that I'm just going to pick out. There we go. And I'm really happy with that. I'm now going to leave that overnight to fully cool down and set up. Here it is. As we can see the back now, we can see that sunflower mold was sitting on the bottom there. It looked like there was maybe a little bit of soap that sort of crept underneath. You can see the tape as well. So I'm just turning the soap over, giving it a bit of a wiggle and a bit of a push to sort of break the seal of the soap against the silicone of the mold, and then I'm able to push it out quite easily. There's a little bit of tape stuck here, and there's also a little bit of tape stuck here, but that's okay. That will come off. So I do have a few little wispy bits where the soap has crept in between the coaster mold and the slab mold. I really want to clean those up now. I really want to emphasize that you want to clean these up before removing the coaster mold, because it's much easier to do it now than it will be to do it later. You'll have wispy bits everywhere and it'll be really annoying. So make sure that's nice and clean. So now I'm going to try and get this coaster mold out. It's not the easiest thing to do. What you need to do is sort of bend the soap around it to sort of break the seal that the silicone has with the soap. And I'm just using some parchment paper here so I don't get fingerprints all over the soap. Then I was able to use a knife just to jimmy up a corner and just inch it out all around the edge until it just popped off. And there we go. Look at that. That is fantastic. I love that. I love the colors, the yellow and the blue. It's like the 90s. You remember when everything in the 90s was yellow and blue? Oh, it just looks so good. Alrighty, now it's time to chop this up. I will be measuring it first. I've got my ball tip stylus here, which I just sort of use like a pencil. I'm just measuring 3 inches in from each side because it's a 6 inch by 6 inch soap. Sorry, I was having trouble with my camera drifting, but you get the gist. You can see what we're doing here. So now I am cutting the soap in half, and then I'm also going to cut it again. More drifting. Here we go. And now I have 4, just fixing my camera, there we go, 4 beautifully square embellished soap bars. So there's just one corner of each soap bar that's got, you know, the sunflower embellishment on it, but I think it looks pretty good. So you can see why I wanted the thick brown section in the middle, because I really wanted that brown to show all the way through. You can also see there's a gap there from the wall of the coaster mold. I don't mind that. I think that works really well. I think it frames the sunflower really well. So you can see there how it looks from the side, how it looks from the top. Smells amazing. It's just a really great little bar of soap. So much fun. It's very pretty, smells good, fun to use. So I like to display them all facing the same direction. So like this. There we go. So they look uniform. Actually, no, sorry, you're facing me. There you go. That's how I like looking at it, because it looks sort of like the sun shining down in the blue sky. I think that looks pretty cool. But then again, don't forget that all together they make a sunflower. So I hope you enjoyed today's tweak of the week and have some fantastic ideas of your own of how to embellish some soap with some coaster molds. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you love what I do. And until next time, enjoy.